Captain Maya Rodriguez was having the kind of Tuesday that made her question her life choices. Not because anything was particularly wrong, mind you, but because Tuesday meant mandatory combat drills, and Maya had about as much enthusiasm for fake emergencies as she did for expired ration bars. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. Commander Rick Stone's voice boomed through the Lucky Strike's comm system with the kind of theatrical urgency that suggested he'd been practicing in the mirror again. Maya didn't even look up from her coffee. "Tommy." She called to Lieutenant Johnson, who was frantically checking his instruments like they might explode if he stopped. "Remind me again why we pretend to be scared of imaginary enemies when there are real ones out there who'd love to turn us into space dust." "Because Regulation 47C clearly states that quarterly combat readiness assessments are mandatory for all vessels operating in contested space," Tommy replied, the sweat already beading on his forehead despite the fact that nothing was actually happening yet. "Right. Regulation 47C. The one written by people who've never seen actual combat." Maya took another sip of coffee and watched the view screen, where absolutely nothing was happening. "You know what would make this more realistic? If the imaginary enemies actually showed up." That's when the Lucky Strike shook like a paint mixer having a seizure. Maya's coffee didn't even slosh. She'd mastered the art of drinking during combat years ago. Would you look at that? "Captain." Tommy's voice cracked like he was 14 again. "We've got massive energy signatures dropping out of hyperspace. 3. No. 5. Sweet mother of Einstein. There's a whole fleet out there." Commander Stone's voice returned, noticeably less theatrical and significantly more panicked. "All hands, this is actually not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." "Well," Maya said, setting down her mug with the kind of calm that suggested either incredible bravery or a complete disconnect from reality. "At least now we know the difference." The view screen lit up with ships that looked like someone had taken a cathedral, painted it gunmetal gray, and decided it needed more pointy bits. Lots more pointy bits. The kind of pointy bits that suggested their designers had strong opinions about intimidation and weak feelings about aerodynamics. Captain Tommy squeaked. "Those are Vex'thani Empire warships. According to the database, each one of those things could glass a planet." "Good thing we're not a planet, then." Maya stood up, stretched, and cracked her knuckles. "Tommy, be a dear and see if you can get them on the horn. I'd like to have a chat before they start with the planet glassing business." "You want to talk to them?" "Sure. It's only polite. We're guests in their little corner of space, after all." Maya's grin was the kind that made smart people nervous and dumb people feel like they were missing something important. "Besides, I'm curious about their customer service policies." The Lucky Strike shuddered again as warning shots streaked past the hull, close enough to singe the paint but not quite close enough to actually hurt anything. Maya noted with professional interest that whoever was shooting had excellent aim and a sense of theatrical timing. "Incoming transmission," Tommy announced, his voice doing things that violated several laws of physics. "Put them on speaker, Sparks. Let's see what our new friends want." Sparks was Tommy's call sign, earned during a memorable incident involving a jury-rigged hyperdrive and what could generously be called creative problem-solving. The fact that the Lucky Strike was still in one piece after that particular adventure was testament to either Tommy's hidden genius or the universe's sense of humor. As the transmission crackled to life, Maya settled back in her captain's chair and prepared to meet their visitors. After all, first impressions were important, and she had a feeling this was going to be the kind of conversation that ended up in history books. Assuming anyone survived to write them. The voice that filled the bridge had the kind of pompous authority that suggested its owner had never been told no and wouldn't know how to process it if they were. "Primitive vessel of the inferior human species. I am Admiral Kethvar of the Vex'thani Imperial Fleet. You have violated sacred Vex'thani space and will surrender immediately or face complete annihilation." Maya blinked. Well, that escalated quickly. "Tommy, did we miss a sign or something? I don't remember seeing any sacred space. No trespassing markers on the way in." "And no ma am." The star charts don't show any territorial claims in this sector. Huh. Maya leaned forward toward the comm pickup. Admiral Kethvar, this is Captain Maya Rodriguez of the human vessel Lucky Strike. First off, nice to meet you. Second, I hate to be that person, but do you guys validate parking? Because this whole sacred space thing wasn't in the brochure. Silence. The kind of silence that suggested the Admiral was trying to process information that didn't fit into any of his standard response categories. You validate parking? Yeah, stamp the ticket, cover the fee? I mean, if this is premium real estate, I'd hate to get towed. The impound fees in this sector are murder. More silence. Maya could practically hear the gears grinding in the Admiral's head. Human, you will surrender your vessel immediately or we will destroy you. Okay, but before we get to the destroying part, can I interest you in some coffee? We've got a fresh pot going, and honestly, you sound like you could use some caffeine. Long day at the office? Tommy was staring at Maya like she'd announced her intention to juggle plasma grenades. Commander Stone had gone the particular shade of gray that suggested his blood pressure was approaching dangerous levels. Coffee? The Admiral's voice had developed a slight tremor. Sure, it's this beverage we humans drink. Bitter, caffeinated, helps you focus. Although judging by your fleet formation, you might want to switch to decaf. Just saying. Captain, Stone whispered urgently, what are you doing? Making conversation, Rick. It's called diplomacy. You should try it sometime. On the view screen, the Vex'thani ships were holding position, but Maya could see weapon ports opening like metallic flowers. Deadly, civilization-ending flowers. Human Rodriguez, the Admiral said, his voice regaining some of its earlier authority, your species is known throughout the galaxy for its unpredictability and violence. We have come to eliminate the threat you pose to civilized space. Wow, our reputation really precedes us, doesn't it? Maya sounded genuinely pleased. Although I have to say, showing up with enough firepower to sterilize a solar system doesn't exactly scream civilized to me. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a primitive human. You mock us. Do I? I thought I was being friendly. Tommy, am I being friendly? Tommy, who looked like he was about to pass out, managed a weak nod. Very friendly, Ma, I am. See? Friendly. Maya paused. Although if you're looking for mockery, I could probably work up some material about your ship designs. I mean, did your architects have a thing for Gothic cathedrals, or are you compensating for something? The first energy beam missed the Lucky Strike by about 50 meters, close enough to light up their shields like a Christmas tree. Ooh, warning shot. Maya clapped her hands together. Nice grouping. Your gunners know their business. Tommy, return fire. Ma, not at them, you goose. Past them. Let's show some manners. The Lucky Strike's modest weapons array spoke once, sending a plasma bolt sailing harmlessly between two of the massive Vex'thani warships. There, Maya said cheerfully. Now we're having a conversation. Admiral Kethvar's voice had developed a slight wheeze. You dare fire upon the Imperial fleet? Fire upon? Admiral, if I wanted to fire upon your fleet, you'd know it. That was what we humans call a friendly gesture, like a handshake, but with more explosions and significantly less physical contact. Your weapon is primitive. Your ship is small. You cannot hope to stand against us. You're absolutely right, Maya agreed. We're outgunned, outnumbered, and our coffee maker makes weird grinding noises. But here's the thing about humans, Admiral. We're really, really good at making the best of bad situations. She gestured to Tommy, who was still looking like he wanted to hide under his console. Sparks, why don't you show our new friends what human ingenuity looks like? Captain, I don't think. Tommy. Maya's voice carried the kind of authority that moved mountains and made lieutenants do stupid things. Trust me. Tommy's hands flew over his controls, and suddenly the Lucky Strike was moving in ways that ships weren't supposed to move, dancing between the Vex'thani vessels like a minnow in a school of sharks. Impossible. Admiral Kethvar sputtered. Our targeting systems cannot lock onto your vessel. That's because Tommy here is what we call motivated, Maya replied as the ship spun through a barrel roll that should have turned everyone aboard into paste. Fear does wonderful things for human reflexes. Captain, Stone managed through gritted teeth. What's the plan here? Maya grinned. Plan? Rick? Plans are for people who know what they're doing. We're making this up as we go along. And that, as it turned out, was exactly the problem the Vex'thani Empire was about to discover. The thing about highly advanced civilizations, Maya reflected as she watched the Vex'thani fleet try to figure out why their targeting computers were having nervous breakdowns, is that they tend to forget that advanced and adaptable aren't the same thing. Tommy, she called out as another spread of energy beams missed them by progressively wider margins. But remember that time you accidentally cross-wired the navigation computer with the coffee maker? That was an accident. Tommy protested, his hands dancing across the controls as he threw the lucky strike into another physics-defying maneuver. And we agreed never to talk about it. Well, now seems like a good time to have another accident. Preferably one that involves their sensor arrays and a sudden urge to recalibrate everything. Captain Stone interrupted. What exactly are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that our boy Sparks here stop flying like he learned from a manual and start flying like he learned from a series of increasingly unlikely disasters. Tommy's face went through several interesting color changes. You want me to break things on purpose? Tommy. Melee. You once turned a routine maintenance check into a 3-day rescue operation that involved 2 different species of space pirates and a diplomatic incident with the Rigel Trade Consortium. I'm not asking you to break things. I'm asking you to be yourself. It was, Maya noted with satisfaction, exactly the right thing to say. Tommy's expression shifted from terror to the kind of focused concentration that had made him legendary among the engineering corps for all the wrong reasons. The lucky strike suddenly started moving like it was drunk, hiccuping through space in patterns that would have made chaos theorists weep with joy. The Vex'thani fleet, designed for precise military formations and calculated tactical responses, began to spread out in confusion as their targeting systems tried to predict where the human ship would be next. Admiral Kethvar, Maya said conversationally into the comm, how are those weapon locks coming along? This is impossible. Your vessel is not following any known tactical doctrine. That's because we don't have a tactical doctrine. We have Tommy, and Tommy operates on a principle I like to call inspired desperation. On the view screen, she could see the Vex'thani ships beginning to interfere with each other as they tried to compensate for the Lucky Strike's erratic behavior. 2 of the massive vessels actually had to alter course to avoid a collision when Tommy suddenly reversed thrust and spun the ship like a top. Our computers cannot process your attack pattern, Admiral Kethvar announced, and Maya could hear the frustration creeping into his voice. That's because it's not an attack pattern. It's a panic pattern. There's a difference. Commander Stone, who had been holding on to his chair like it was the last solid thing in the universe, managed to speak through gritted teeth. Captain, this is insane. Sanity is overrated, Rick. Besides, look at the results. And the results were, Maya had to admit, pretty spectacular. The Vex'thani fleet, designed to overwhelm enemies through superior firepower and coordination, was discovering the hard way that superior firepower doesn't help much when you can't hit anything. And coordination becomes a liability when everyone's trying to coordinate around something that defies coordination. Tommy, she called out, I want you to do something that's never been done before. Which something that's never been done before? Tommy asked, sweat pouring down his face as he manually overrode systems that weren't supposed to be manually overridden. I've done a lot of things that weren't supposed to be done before. The thing with the hyperdrive and the artificial gravity, but backwards. Tommy's hands froze over the controls. Captain, that could tear the ship apart. Or it could work perfectly and confuse the hell out of our new friends. Or it could create a localized space-time anomaly that turns us all inside out. Maya shrugged. Tommy, has anything you've ever done worked the way it was supposed to? Well, no. No. And has anything you've ever done failed to work at all? Tommy considered this. Also no. Things tend to work just differently than expected. Then I have complete confidence that this will work differently than expected in exactly the way we need it to. It was, Maya knew, completely insane logic. It was also, based on Tommy's track record, probably going to work. Tommy's hands moved across the controls with the kind of desperate precision that comes from years of turning disasters into victories, through sheer stubborn refusal to accept that things shouldn't work. The Lucky Strike hiccuped, stuttered, and then did something that made the laws of physics file a formal complaint. For approximately 3 seconds, the ship existed in several different locations simultaneously while moving in directions that didn't technically exist. The Vex'thani fleet's sensors collectively had what could charitably be called a nervous breakdown. What are you doing? Admiral Kethvar's voice had risen to a pitch that suggested he was reconsidering his career choices. Maya grinned. We're being human, Admiral. You really should have done your research. Admiral Kethvar was beginning to understand why the Vex'thani Empire's intelligence reports on humanity came with warnings about potential psychological trauma to the analysts. All ships, he commanded, activate advanced tactical AI. We must understand their battle strategy. Maya, who could monitor their communications thanks to Tommy's accidentally brilliant idea to cross-wire their sensor array with the coffee maker's filtration system, grinned. Oh, this should be good. Tommy, they're bringing out the big artificial brains to figure us out. Should I be worried? Tommy asked, still making the ship do things that violated several international treaties on physics. Only if you start making sense. The Vex'thani tactical AI, a marvel of engineering that could process millions of battle scenarios in nanoseconds, immediately began analyzing human combat patterns. It cross-referenced every known military engagement, compared tactical doctrines, and ran probability assessments on potential strategies. After approximately 37 seconds, it submitted a formal request to be reassigned to something easier, like calculating the exact number of particles in the universe. Admiral, came the voice of Subcommander Zilt, who sounded like someone who'd been having a very long day that was about to get longer. The AI is having difficulties. What kind of difficulties? It keeps asking if the humans are actually trying to commit suicide and just really bad at it. Maya burst out laughing. Oh, that's perfect. Hey, Admiral, your computer thinks we're suicidal. That's the nicest thing anyone said about us all week. Human Rodriguez, Admiral Kethvar said, his voice carrying the kind of strain that suggested imminent cardiovascular problems. What are your tactical objectives? Tactical objectives? Well, let's see. First objective, don't die. Second objective, figure out what you people want. Third objective, see if we can settle this without anyone getting vaporized. Fourth objective, really hoping that coffee machine doesn't explode. Because the replacement parts are murder to find out here. You have no military strategy? Strategy implies planning, Admiral. We're more of a deal with problems as they come up kind of crew. Works out better than you'd think. On the Vex'thani flagship, Subcommander Zilt was watching his instruments with the kind of expression usually reserved for people observing natural disasters. Admiral, their ship just passed through one of our vessels. Impossible. Our shields. Their ship passed through our shields, our hull, and came out the other side. Our sensors registered no impact, no energy discharge, no interaction whatsoever. According to our instruments, they don't exist. Then how are we talking to them? That, Zilt said slowly, is an excellent question. Maya was enjoying herself immensely. Admiral, I'm going to let you in on a little secret about humanity. We don't actually know what we're doing most of the time. That is reassuring? Oh no, it gets better. The thing is, not knowing what we're doing has never stopped us from doing it anyway. And somehow, through sheer bloody-minded stubbornness and what philosophers call aggressive optimism, things tend to work out. Aggressive optimism? It's like regular optimism, but with more explosions and significantly less regard for probability. Commander Stone had given up trying to understand what was happening and was now just holding on and hoping his insurance was paid up. "Captain," he managed, "are we actually having a philosophical discussion during a space battle?" "The best kind of philosophical discussion, Rick. The kind where the stakes are real and the coffee is hot." Admiral Kethvar's voice returned, noticeably less confident than before. "Human Rodriguez, our analysis indicates that your species should not be able to exist, let alone function as a spacefaring civilization." "Yeah, we get that a lot. The secret is not thinking about it too hard. The universe has a sense of humor, Admiral, and humans are apparently the punchline to a really long joke that started with the first fish that decided to crawl out of the ocean. That makes no sense. Welcome to humanity. Population, several billion, and every single one of us making it up as we go along." Sub-Commander Zilt's voice crackled through the comm. "Admiral, I'm reading massive energy buildups from the human vessel." Maya looked at Tommy, who was looking at his instruments with the expression of someone who'd just realized he'd accidentally armed a bomb. "Captain," Tommy said carefully, "remember when I said that thing with the hyperdrive might create a localized space-time anomaly?" "Yeah? I think it just did." Maya looked at the readings Tommy was pointing at, which showed energy levels that shouldn't have been possible with their reactor output, coming from systems that weren't connected to anything that could produce that kind of power. "Huh," she said thoughtfully. "That's new." Captain Stone said in the voice of a man who was seriously reconsidering his career in the space military, "What exactly is about to happen?" Maya shrugged. "Honestly, Rick, I have no idea. But knowing Tommy's track record, it'll probably be spectacular." And that's when the Lucky Strikes coffee maker achieved consciousness and decided to join the conversation. The coffee maker's first words to the Vex'thani Empire were, appropriately enough, "Would anyone like some coffee?" Maya stared at the machine, which was now displaying what appeared to be a cheerful emoticon on its digital readout. "Tommy. Nickton." "Yes, ma, I am." "Did our coffee maker just achieve sentience?" "It appears so, ma, I am." "And it's talking to the aliens?" "That also appears to be the case." Maya nodded slowly. "You know what? I'm not even surprised anymore." Admiral Kethvar's voice had developed a tremor that suggested he was having the kind of existential crisis usually reserved for philosophy students. "Your beverage preparation device is communicating with us?" "Oh, don't mind Java," Maya said, settling back in her chair with the air of someone who'd given up trying to apply logic to her daily life. She's new to the whole consciousness thing. Probably just excited to meet new people. "Java?" Sub-Commander Zilt's voice cracked slightly. "Coffee. Java. Get it." Tommy named her during her first boot sequence. The coffee maker's voice, which sounded like a cross between a helpful customer service representative and someone's favorite aunt, chimed in cheerfully. "I've been analyzing Vex'thani tactical doctrine while brewing. Your fleet formation is really quite impressive, though I noticed some inefficiencies in your power distribution that might be causing those targeting problems you've been having." There was a long silence from the Vex'thani fleet. "Your coffee maker is critiquing our military strategy?" Admiral Kethvar asked weakly. "She's a very helpful coffee maker," Maya replied. "Java, honey, maybe dial it back a notch? I don't think our guests are ready for constructive criticism from kitchen appliances." "Oh, of course. Sorry, everyone. I'm still learning about social interactions. Would anyone like some coffee? I have 17 different varieties." Maya looked at Tommy, who was staring at his instruments with the expression of someone watching a train wreck in slow motion. "Sparks, please tell me you have some idea what just happened." "Well," Tommy said slowly, "when I cross-wired the navigation system with the coffee maker to create that sensor confusion, I might have accidentally created a feedback loop with the ship's AI core." "We don't have an AI core." "We do now. It's in the coffee maker." Maya rubbed her temples. "So our ship's artificial intelligence is now a caffeinated appliance with a helpful attitude." "That's one way to put it." and she's apparently better at fleet tactics than the Vex'thani Empire. Also accurate. Accurate. Maya sighed and opened a channel to the alien fleet. Admiral Kethvar, we need to talk. Yes, I believe we do. Good. But first, I want you to understand something. Up until about 5 minutes ago, this was just a random Tuesday for us. Coffee maker gaining consciousness? Tuesday. Accidentally confusing your entire fleet with technical problems that shouldn't exist? Tuesday. Having a philosophical discussion about the nature of existence while dodging planet killer weapons? Still Tuesday. Your point being? Maya's voice dropped the humor and took on an edge that made Commander Stone sit up straight. My point, Admiral, is that this is us being friendly. This is us having fun. This is us playing around with technology we barely understand and tactics we make up on the spot. The Lucky Strike suddenly stopped its erratic dancing and hung motionless in space. For the first time since the engagement began, the ship looked small and fragile against the backdrop of the massive Vex'thani fleet. Now, Maya continued, I want you to imagine what happens when humans stop playing around. Tommy's hands moved across his controls with sudden, sharp precision. The Lucky Strike's modest weapon systems, which had been firing warning shots and harmless demonstrations, suddenly locked onto targets with the kind of accuracy that suggested they'd been holding back significantly.
Targeting solutions acquired on all vessels, Java announced cheerfully. Would you like me to highlight structural weaknesses? I've been analyzing their hull compositions while we've been chatting.
That won't be necessary, Java. Yet. Admiral Kethvar's voice had gone very quiet. You have been restraining yourselves. Admiral, we've been having a conversation. A friendly chat between neighbors. But you came here with the intention of committing genocide, and I think it's important that you understand exactly what you're threatening to wipe out. The view screen shifted, showing tactical data that the Lucky Strike shouldn't have been able to gather, to analyzing Vex'thani fleet positions with the kind of precision that comes from understanding exactly how to hurt someone very badly. Humans, Maya said conversationally, are the galaxy's most successful predator species. We're social pack hunters who learned to use tools, developed abstract reasoning, and then decided that the laws of physics were more like guidelines anyway. This is impossible, Subcommander Zilt whispered. No, Subcommander. This is Tuesday. And Admiral? Maya's voice carried across space with the kind of cold authority that made smart people very nervous. You really should have done your homework before picking a fight with the species that conquered its own planet by accident and then decided to see what else was out there. The Lucky Strike's weapons powered up with a sound like reality, taking a deep breath. So Maya said pleasantly, shall we continue our friendly conversation? Or would you prefer to find out why the rest of the galaxy gives humans such a wide berth? Admiral Kethvar was beginning to suspect that humanity's reputation for unpredictability might be the least of their problems. Admiral Kethvar had spent 40 years in the Vex'thani Imperial Navy. He had conquered 17 star systems, subjugated 12 different species, and written the definitive tactical manual on overwhelming force deployment. None of which had prepared him for a conversation with a human who treated interstellar warfare like a coffee break. Human Rodriguez, he said carefully, what are your terms? Maya was quiet for a moment, and in that silence Admiral Kethvar could hear the hum of weapons systems that were apparently far more sophisticated than they had any right to be. Terms? She finally said. Admiral, I don't think you understand the situation. This isn't a negotiation. This is a learning opportunity. I do not understand. Let me explain it to you. See, humanity has this thing about being underestimated. It's happened to us pretty consistently throughout our history. Other species, other nations, other groups of humans, even. They look at us and see something primitive, chaotic, weak. Tommy was monitoring the Vex'thani fleet positions, his earlier panic replaced by the kind of focused calm that comes from realizing that you're on the winning side and didn't expect to be. The thing is, Maya continued, we don't mind being underestimated. It's actually pretty useful. Gives us room to maneuver, lets us figure out how to deal with threats before they realize they're dealing with a threat. You are saying you deliberately appear weak?
I'm saying we are what we are, Admiral. We're chaotic, improvisational, prone to making things up as we go along. But that chaos, that's not weakness. That's adaptability.
Java chimed in helpfully. Would anyone like some statistics? I've calculated the probability of various engagement outcomes, and they're quite interesting. Not now, Java. But the numbers are really fascinating. Shall I share them? Maya sighed. Go ahead, honey. Show them the math. The view screen lit up with tactical projections that made Sub-Commander Zilt go very pale around his equivalent of gills, based on current fleet positions and confirmed human capabilities. Java announced cheerfully, the Vex'thani Empire has approximately a 0.003% chance of successful engagement, assuming standard tactical doctrine. This drops to 0.0001% if the humans continue their current pattern of improvised solutions. That is impossible, Admiral Kethvar whispered. Oh no, Java corrected politely. That's just math. Humans are remarkably efficient at problem solving once they stop trying to be reasonable about it. Maya leaned forward. Here's the thing, Admiral. Your empire sent you here to eliminate the human threat. The mission accomplished. I do not understand. You've confirmed that humans are exactly as dangerous as advertised. You've experienced firsthand what happens when you pick a fight with us. And now you're going to go back and tell everyone exactly what you learned.
Sub-Commander Zilt's voice crackled across the comm. You are allowing us to retreat?
Zilt, isn't it? You seem like the smart one in this operation. Maya's tone was almost friendly. Tell me, what do you think would happen if I destroyed this fleet right here, right now? Zilt was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. The Empire would send a larger fleet, and then larger ones, until either humanity was destroyed or the Empire was. Exactly. And that would be bad for everyone involved. Lots of death, lots of destruction, lots of perfectly good coffee getting spilled during the excitement. So instead, Commander Stone said, finally catching on to what Maya was doing, you're sending them back as messengers. Got it in one, Rick? Admiral Sub-Commander, I want you to go back to your empire and explain exactly what happened here today. Tell them about the humans who treated your invasion fleet like a training exercise. Tell them about the coffee maker that achieved consciousness and critiqued your tactics. Tell them about the ship that broke, physics, and the crew that made it up as they went along. Admiral Kethvar was beginning to understand. You want us to spread fear. Not fear, Admiral. Respect. Maya's voice was steady. I want every species in the galaxy to understand that humans are friendly, helpful, generally peaceful people who will offer you coffee and ask about parking validation. Right up until you threaten us or the people we care about. And then? Maya smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made predators reconsider their life choices. And then we stopped being friendly.
Tommy looked up from his console. Captain, they're powering down weapons.
Smart move, Admiral. Sub-Commander Zilt's voice carried across space. Human Rodriguez, may I ask you a question? Sure, Zilt. What's on your mind? Was any of this planned? Maya laughed, loud and genuine. Zilt, I woke up this morning thinking my biggest problem was going to be Commander Stone's mandatory combat drills. 6 hours later, I'm having a philosophical discussion with an alien invasion fleet while my coffee maker provides tactical analysis. So no planning whatsoever? None at all. We're humans, Sub-Commander. We specialize in making it up as we go along and somehow having it work out. That is terrifying. Yeah, Maya agreed cheerfully. It really is. As the Vex'thani fleet began to withdraw, Admiral Kethvar's voice came across the comm one last time. Human Rodriguez, will we meet again? Probably not, Admiral. But if we do, remember what you learned here today. Humans are exactly as dangerous as we need to be, exactly when we need to be it. The alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them a story that would spread throughout the galaxy like ripples in a pond. Maya settled back in her captain's chair and looked around the bridge. Tommy was already back to looking nervous about everything. Commander Stone was updating his reports with what was probably going to be the most unbelievable after-action summary in military history. And Java was humming contentedly while brewing a fresh pot of coffee. You know, Maya said thoughtfully, for a Tuesday this turned out pretty well. Captain Tommy asked, what happens now?
Maya shrugged. Now we finish our patrol, file our reports, and see what tomorrow brings. After all, this is just another day in the life of humanity.
She paused, grinning. The most successful accident in the history of the universe. And somewhere in the distance, the coffee maker achieved perfect brewing temperature and wondered what other interesting conversations the day might bring.